We hold on to people not because they complete us, but because we once believed they would. And when they don't, when they walk away or love us less than we hoped, we don't just grieve their absence. We grieve the part of ourselves we attach to them. That's why letting go feels like dying, not because they were our whole world, but because we made them the mirror of a part of ourselves we hadn't yet fully met. Carl Jung didn't see attachment as simple affection. He saw it as projection, an unconscious spilling of our deepest needs onto someone else. We don't cling because they're irreplaceable. We cling because they unknowingly reflect a part of us we've long hidden in the shadows. A part we've never learned to love without someone else loving it first. The shadow isn't just darkness, it's all the forgotten parts of you. The pieces you abandoned to be accepted, the feelings you buried to survive. When you stay tied to someone who doesn't love you, it's not them you're refusing to release. It's the piece of yourself you projected onto them. Their rejection becomes a rejection of that part of you. So you fight harder. You hold tighter. Not for love, but for self-reclamation. The danger is we mistake this for destiny. We tell ourselves it's meant to be. But the truth is, it's just a cycle, a familiar pain disguised as love. And it repeats because the lesson hasn't yet been learned. That lesson might come from a place long before this person existed, a childhood wound, a forgotten heartbreak, a voice inside you that whispers you are not enough unless someone else says you are. But you are. You always were. The healing begins when you stop chasing their love and start asking, what am I really seeking in them? Maybe it's their strength, their light, the way they move through the world unapologetically. But none of those qualities are theirs alone. You're drawn to them because they awaken something already within you. Jung didn't tell us to kill the attachment. He told us to understand it, to reclaim what we projected. So take their confidence and build your own. Take the love you wanted from them and learn to give it to yourself, fully and fiercely. That's the beginning of emotional freedom. Not detachment through bitterness or indifference, but through truth. Through owning the parts of you that you once tried to find in them. You may still feel the ache. That's human. But over time, the ache becomes a doorway. It leads you inward, deeper than any relationship ever could. And there you'll find the real work, confronting the beliefs that kept you small, healing the wounds you thought only love could touch, remembering the you that existed before the longing. Individuation, Jung called it, the becoming. When you stop chasing completion in another and begin remembering who you are. When you stop breaking yourself to be chosen and instead choose yourself without permission. Because the truth is, you were never meant to lose yourself to be loved. You were meant to find yourself, and from that place, love can finally begin. There comes a moment when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. Not because the love wasn't real, but because it stopped reflecting who you are becoming. Some connections are beautiful, but not meant to last. In the deeper truth, releasing someone who doesn't return your love is not rejection, it's redirection. You're not unworthy, you're just evolving. We spend so much of our lives trying to force puzzle pieces into places they don't belong, hoping the picture will make sense if we just try hard enough. But real alignment never requires force, and love, true love, flows freely or not at all. When someone's path no longer runs beside yours, you are not losing them. You are meeting yourself again. Individuation isn't a clean process. It asks you to walk through the fire of everything you've been taught about love, worth, and connection. And when you emerge, you don't just see people differently. You see yourself with new eyes. You understand that some souls enter your story not to stay, but to teach, to awaken the dormant parts of you that needed to be seen, challenged, or healed. This is the quiet power of emotional detachment. Not bitterness, not denial, but clarity. You no longer chase closeness where there is no effort. You no longer bend yourself to earn presence, because you've realized you were never meant to depend on someone else to feel whole. Letting go feels like loss at first, like standing in an empty room where their voice used to echo. But that silence isn't emptiness, it's space. Sacred space, the kind where your truth can finally rise without interruption, where your needs, your dreams, your essence have room to breathe again. And from that space, you begin to remember That love was never about clinging, it was about freedom. That needing someone to validate your worth was never love. It was fear. And fear is nothing more than the mind's last attempt to keep you small. You start choosing peace over pursuit, depth over drama, presence over promises that never become reality. You stop asking, why didn't they stay? And begin asking, why did I forget myself trying to make them stay? This is the turning point. When you stop searching for love in places that diminish you. When you stop begging for crumbs and start offering yourself the feast you've always deserved. And in doing so, you become magnetic, not to everyone, but to the right ones. Those who see you, those who show up without being asked, those who aren't intimidated by your wholeness. Jung didn't speak of change as a surface-level shift. He spoke of transformation as a death and a rebirth. And that's what happens when you let go, not of the person, but of the illusion. The illusion that they were the answer. The illusion that you had to earn love. The illusion that your worth was ever outside of you. You don't detach because you stop loving. You detach because you finally loved yourself enough to stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hold the wound. And somewhere in that quiet reclamation, you discover the most sacred truth of all. You were never broken, just buried beneath years of noise, fear, and longing. And now you're returning to yourself, not a version edited to be chosen, but the real you, unapologetic, whole, free. There's a moment in the silence after goodbye that feels like the air has been sucked from the room, like something essential has gone missing. But if you sit with it long enough, if you don't run from the ache or drown it in distraction, you'll start to hear something else. Yourself, the voice beneath the noise, the presence that was there long before they arrived, and suddenly solitude stops being punishment. It becomes a path, a quiet invitation back to you. Fear tells you the emptiness is a void, but it's not. It's a sacred clearing, a space carved open so truth can finally take root. The truth that no one outside of you can complete you, that the ache you thought was for them was really a call to return to your own center. We've been conditioned to think attachment is love, that if we miss someone deeply, if we can't let go, it must be because they were special. But Carl Jung showed us a different way of seeing. He taught that attachment often isn't about the other at all. It's about what they reflected back to us, a piece of our psyche, a forgotten part of our soul. When someone walks away and leaves you shattered, it's not always their absence you're grieving. It's the illusion of wholeness you believed they provided, and yet nothing real can ever be taken from you. What you discover again and again is that peace, security, and love were never theirs to give. They were always within you, waiting to be remembered. When you finally feel that, not just understand it in theory, but embody it, you stop clinging. You stop begging the past to return. Letting go ceases to be a struggle. It becomes liberation. This isn't about pretending the past didn't matter. It's about honoring what was without chaining yourself to it. It's about learning to carry memories with grace instead of dragging them like weights. Because every relationship, every heartbreak is a message from the unconscious, a lesson dressed in human skin, a reflection of what still needs to be healed or held inside you. Sometimes they come to show you what you truly want, other times to show you what you'll no longer tolerate, and sometimes they arrive simply to awaken a part of you that's been silent for too long. But once their purpose is served, holding on becomes stagnation. The pain comes not from the ending, but from the refusal to accept that it ended. The mind will argue. It will replay what could have been. It will convince you that you lost something irreplaceable. But pause. Ask yourself, is this love or is it fear? Because love doesn't diminish you. It doesn't confuse you or keep you waiting in emotional limbo. Love doesn't demand you stay small just to be chosen. If it hurts, if it depletes, if it keeps you doubting your worth, what you're holding on to isn't love. It's a wound in search of healing, and that healing won't come from another's return. It can only grow from your own hands, your own heart, your own courage to let go. And when you finally do, when you stop replaying the story and start rewriting your own, everything shifts. You begin to see the patterns, you begin to see yourself, and you realize the ending was never really an end. It was a turning point. New beginnings don't arrive when you're still tangled in the past. They come when you clear the space with gratitude. Gratitude for what you gained. Gratitude for what cracked you open. Gratitude for the version of you that was born from the ashes. Because no one crosses your path by accident, and no one leaves without leaving something behind. Even if it's just the reminder that you were always enough on your own. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It lingers quietly in the background, like an echo of something you thought would last forever. But sometimes the most painful realization is also the most liberating. They were never the answer. They were the lesson. And even if the only thing they left behind was a mirror showing you what you'll never settle for again, that alone was worth the chapter. True freedom isn't about walking through life without connection. It's about loving with your whole heart without losing yourself in the process. It's giving because your soul wants to, not because you fear being abandoned. It's being able to hold someone's hand without placing your entire identity in their palm. This kind of love doesn't cling, it breathes. You start to see love not as ownership but as presence, not as something you must earn, but as something that flows from within you. And when you no longer need someone to complete you, you begin to meet people who respect the wholeness you've built on your own. They don't arrive to rescue you, they arrive to walk beside you. But getting to that place takes time. It takes the courage to unlearn everything you've believed about love, worth, and happiness. The belief that your life begins when someone chooses you. The belief that love must hurt to be real. The belief that you're too much or not enough. These aren't truths. They're stories you inherited. Stories that kept you stuck in patterns that mirrored your deepest fears. Jung taught that the unconscious mind doesn't distinguish between comfort and chaos. It only recognizes what's familiar. So if suffering is what you've known, if sacrifice has always come packaged as love, your mind will lead you straight back into the fire and call it home, until you say no more. Detachment isn't numbness, it isn't apathy. It's choosing peace over obsession, clarity over fantasy, truth over illusion. It's no longer needing someone to stay in order for you to feel safe. It's letting them go without shattering. And that kind of strength doesn't come from pretending you don't care. It comes from facing every raw feeling and refusing to let it define your worth. You'll still remember them. Your mind will replay the moments that made you feel alive, the promises that were never kept, the touch that once felt like home. But now you'll see it for what it was, a chapter, not your whole book. The memories won't disappear, but their power over you will. And in that power shift, something opens. Space, stillness, a quiet kind of readiness. Not for someone to fill the emptiness, but for something new to enter that honors who you become. You're no longer waiting for the old love to return. You're not measuring your worth by who stayed. You're standing in your own light, and from that place, only those who see your light will come close. The letting go becomes less of a loss and more of a return to self, a return to truth, a return to love that isn't rooted in fear or fantasy, but in freedom. Because real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It invites you to expand. So when your mind tries to drag you back into the story, when it whispers that no one else will ever understand you the way they did, pause, breathe. Remind yourself it wasn't love that left. It was attachment. And attachment is not love. Love stays, even when people go. Love evolves. And the deepest, purest love you'll ever know begins with you. There comes a moment when you stop asking why they left and start asking why you ever believed you needed them to feel whole. That's when something inside you begins to shift. Not all at once, but slowly, like the thawing of a long frozen silence. You realize the ache wasn't about their absence. It was about a wound much older than them, a space within you that you hoped someone else could fill. But no one else can complete what you haven't yet claimed within yourself. What you called love was often just dependency dressed in longing, a search for safety in the arms of someone who could never give what you were unwilling to give yourself. And Carl Jung saw this for what it was, not love, but projection. We chase after what we believe we're missing, but the truth is we're only ever chasing pieces of ourselves. That hollow feeling after they're gone, that tight grip of anxiety, the fear of being alone, it has nothing to do with them. It's the voice inside you that still believes you're not enough on your own. But letting go of someone who doesn't love you back isn't weakness. It's the purest form of strength. It's choosing to protect your peace instead of proving your worth. This isn't about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about feeling every ounce of it and walking through it anyway. Jung reminded us, you don't transcend suffering by avoiding it. You heal by allowing it to surface, to breathe, to speak. And yes, it will hurt, because part of you was built around that person. But the hurt isn't a sign you're broken. It's a sign you're unraveling the illusion. As you begin to loosen the grip, the fog starts to clear. You notice the weight in your chest slowly lifting, not because they came back, not because someone else arrived, but because for the first time, you stopped abandoning yourself. You chose you. There's a quiet power in no longer needing answers, in not replaying the last words or scanning messages for hidden meanings. Because you begin to understand something deeper. Love cannot be forced. Attention cannot be begged. And the kind of connection that sets your soul on fire will never make you feel like you have to shrink to deserve it. And no, this doesn't mean you'll never love again. It just means the next time, love will feel different. It will be rooted in presence, not panic. Wholeness, not hunger. You won't need someone to rescue you from your loneliness. You'll meet them from a place of peace. That's what true detachment is. Not detachment from love, but from illusion. From the story that you were ever incomplete. And as you walk this path, every painful goodbye, every night spent in silence, every memory that fades a little more, it's all proof that you're returning to yourself. And when you look back, you'll see that the one thing you thought you lost was never really yours to begin with. But what you found, your voice, your worth, your wholeness, that was the treasure buried beneath the letting go. Real love doesn't arrive when you're desperate to be saved. It finds you when you've finally learned to love the one person who will never leave, yourself. There comes a moment so quiet, so subtle, it almost passes unnoticed, when something inside you finally lets go. Not with rage, not with desperation, but with a soft exhale. It's the moment you stop looking backward, stop waiting for a return, stop wondering what could have been if only you had tried harder. And in that pause, that breath, everything begins to change. You no longer see life through the lens of what's missing. You begin to notice what's already here. Not the absence, but the presence. Not the loss, but the space. And for the first time, you stop moving from fear. Fear of being alone, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough. Instead, you begin to move from trust. The quiet kind. The kind that says, if something is meant for me, it will come. And if it doesn't, it was never mine to carry. Letting go of someone who doesn't love you back will break you in places you didn't know could ache. But beneath that fracture, something sacred waits to be discovered. Not a better version of them, a clearer version of you. Because this isn't just about walking away from a person. It's about returning to the parts of yourself you abandoned while trying to be loved. We spend so long chasing love out there, in the eyes of another, hoping they'll reflect something beautiful back to us. But that mirror can shatter, and when it does, the only reflection left is your own. And that's where the real work begins. The deep remembering, the fierce reclamation, the quiet rebuilding. Carl Jung understood that healing isn't about erasing the past or pretending the pain never happened. It's about integration, about welcoming every memory, every mistake, every heartbreak as part of your becoming. You don't suppress the story. You read it with new eyes. You thank the ones who couldn't stay, not because it didn't hurt, but because it led you here, to the version of you who knows their worth isn't up for negotiation. Every ending you feared was the start of something greater. Every person who walked away handed you a lesson you couldn't have learned any other way. And every ounce of pain became an invitation to rise, not bitter but wiser, not guarded but grounded. Because pain, when met with awareness, becomes the most honest teacher you'll ever have. That's the paradox. When you stop needing love, you start attracting it, not because you gave up on it, but because you no longer beg for it. You no longer chase connection from a place of emptiness. You filled your own cup, and now what overflows becomes a gift to offer, not a plea for validation. And when love comes again, and it won't arrive as a rescue. It'll meet you in your fullness. It will stand beside you, not above you. It will walk with you, not carry you. This is the kind of love that doesn't bind. It frees. And it can only find you when you've learned to choose yourself first. So if you find yourself standing in the ruins of something that once meant everything, don't rush to rebuild. Let it fall. Let it teach. Let it empty you just enough so something more honest can take root. You were never meant to live trapped in what no longer fits. Life is movement. Life is change. And you're meant to evolve. Choose yourself again and again, without guilt, without shame. Let that be your love story. Let that be your foundation. And when you do, when you finally believe that your worth was never tied to another's ability to see it, you'll stop waiting for someone to choose you, because you already have. There's someone out there right now carrying a weight they don't know how to put down. Someone silently struggling, clinging to the hope that maybe things will make sense again. And maybe, just maybe, your journey, your healing, your voice is the very light they need to find their way back to themselves. This is how change begins, not in grand gestures, but in small moments of truth shared between souls who dare to speak honestly. You may not realize it, but what touched you today, what cracked you open or stirred something deep inside, could be the spark for someone else's awakening. That's the beauty of healing out loud. It becomes a ripple, and your voice becomes part of that ripple the moment you speak it. So ask yourself, what did you feel? What part of this message echoed something you've always known but maybe forgot? What truth are you finally ready to live? You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. That small shift in awareness, that first honest step toward yourself, is already transformation in motion. And as you walk that path, remember that you're not alone. Every person here is walking with you, peeling back the layers, facing their shadows, relearning how to love without losing themselves. Together, we're not just building an audience. We're building a community, one rooted in truth, in courage, in radical self-respect. So speak your truth, share what moved you, offer your insight no matter how simple it may seem, because you never know whose heart it might reach, whose pain it might soften, whose direction it might gently realign. And if you haven't joined us yet, now is the time. Stay close. Stay connected. This space is for those who are ready to stop running from themselves and start returning to who they were always meant to be. People who choose growth over comfort, love over fear, truth over approval. You have that strength within you. You always have. And the life you're searching for? It's already waiting for you on the other side of one decision: to choose yourself. Not once, not when it's easy, but again and again until it becomes your way of being. You are not broken, you're becoming. And that more than anything is your power.